Welcome back. In the previous lecture, we understood about what are aggregations, what are the aggregation types which are supported in Spark. In this lecture, we will take our journey further and understand one of the aggregation, count. Before we venture into count, all aggregations are available as functions. As we know, some of the special cases that appear as a part of the data frames, there are some .stat variations also which will help in aggregations. So, in addition to the special cases that appear on data frames or via .stat packages, all the aggregations are available as functions. All these aggregation functions are available as org.apache spark.sql.functions. As you have already seen in our earlier classes, we tend to import some of the functions by saying spark.sql.functions, right? All these functions are included as a part of apache.spark.sql functions package. Before we get started with count, what do we need for aggregation? We would need a data frame, right? We will have multiple columns, column 1, column 2, column 3 as a part of the data frame, and we will try to aggregate one of them or two of them depending upon our requirement. In order to do any aggregations, we got to have a data frame. So, first and foremost thing is, let us go ahead and create a data frame. We already know how to create a data frame. So, we have, this is the data frame and this is a Spark session, read API, format, we are specifying couple options and we are reading multiple files in this particular data frame so that it will help us to understand the aggregation better. Simplest aggregation function is count. In count, we can do two things. We can count on a individual specific column, isn't it? If you have a multiple columns, let us say column 1, column 2, column 3, either you can count only this column or all of them. So, first one is counting a specific column, or by specifying count star or count by providing a literal, we can count all the columns. One of the important aspect is when you are counting, whether to count the null values or not. When you are performing a count star, Spark will count the null values. But when you are counting an individual column, Spark will not count the null values. Wonderful. We understood how the count works. First and foremost thing is, we got to import the function count. If you had already forgotten, very easy to import the function. It is from PySpark.sql.functions, then import, then this is the count function. Then what you got to do is, you got to provide the name of the data frame, then select the column on which you want to count and provide the column name. This is the column name. This is only one column. We are counting on the only one column. Or if you want to count all the columns in a data frame, very simple. Df name dot count star. It is as simple as that. Sometimes counting all the values in a column may not be relevant. Sometimes what you got to know is you want to know only the distinct values in a column. It may be distinct cities, it may be distinct products, many aspects. In that case, we can go ahead and use the count distinct. Count distinct, what it does is it counts the number of unique values or groups. Mostly, as you can imagine, it is most relevant for the individual columns. How do you do it? You can import the count distinct function, and then instead of specifying the count, you specify the count distinct here. It will count the distinct values in this column. Easy peasy. And also sometimes you are okay with approximating the distinct values in the column. That is when you can use the approximate count distinct. What it does is it approximates the count to a certain degree of accuracy. How do you approach the approximate count distinct? You can import the function approximate count distinct, and instead of specifying the count or count distinct, you specify the function here. You can specify the column on which you want to count the distinct values. If you notice, there is one more value which we are providing here. What is that? That is the maximum error which is allowed to count. So, in this case we are saying 0.1, that means it is okay to have a error of 10%. Depending upon your project, what you are trying to do, you can specify this value. Wonderful. We understood all the aspects of the count as a part of this lecture. We will see some of the examples as a part of our hands-on class. Thank you.